What's up, guys?
What up?
What's this, like episode 6 of my Just Talking series, which I don't do that often, but both of you wanted to do one, so I was up for it.
Yay!
That's Jamie. He's a friend of mine. He's a infrequent guest on another friend of mine's channel called the Farce the Nation Zoomcast. I'll have a card up here as well as a link in the description. And down here we've got my other friend Hank.
Hey, back again.
Yep. Had you in the last episode. That got a lot of positive feedback from people, but they're still not commenting in my YouTube comments. I need the comments down there so people can be social and show the love.
It's about as social as you can get these days, frankly.
Yeah.
Try not to take it as a rejection of you personally.
Right. People are afraid to say stuff, you know?
Well, they are gathering out in Sturgis for that giant motorcycle rally. I'm sure that's going to be healthy for everyone involved. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I know that's not on our agenda today, but just like 300,000 people from across the country getting together to backslap and rev their Harleys. Oh my God. And then go back home sick to everybody and kill all the old people.
Right. So speaking of agenda, that's a good segue. We've got 3 subjects. Everybody's laughing. We've got 3 subjects today: Apple products versus others, how the quarantine has impacted our pre-existing hobbies, and any predictions we have for 2021. And I'm talking non-political, of course.
Yeah, let's take a break from that.
Well,
Not take a break from any of the subjects you brought up, but from politics and all that loony stuff.
I'll start it off with Apple products. And for any new viewers to the channel, if they don't know, there's a little bit of sci-fi that goes on my channel, but I'm not a fan of Apple products. And my son was doing some time traveling experimenting, and he somehow visited a dark timeline and came back with an iPhone. So we've been struggling trying to use it as a camera and as a mic. Especially if you record as a mic, you can maybe get like a trial version of some paid app so you can get the file off of that.
I'll tell you why I have an iPhone. I'm just going to fess up right now. I have an iPhone, and I've had an Android previously. So I made the switch to an iPhone, and I'll tell you why. It's because of the lingering effect of iTunes. I organized all my MP3s and used iTunes to listen to them. And then I was just doing that for so long, trying to manage your iTunes or your MP3 library between an Android phone and iTunes was just a nightmare. And so it's so much easier to, it was the vertical integration that brought me back. I have to say, if you're just using it for a phone and you're not trying to do a lot between your phone and a PC, I haven't noticed too many problems with it. It's been pretty convenient. And this version is at least 2 or 3 versions old. I think it's an iPhone 6 Plus or something like that. It's got a wide screen. It still runs great. Does everything I need. I see no reason to upgrade it anymore. I don't know. Like, I've got a big hand, and I just couldn't really hold something that much bigger in terms of a screen.
You got big man hands.
I do. I can hit about 10 keys on a piano. So anyway.
I helped my ex once convert her. She couldn't stand iPhone. It was something her brother got her, and had to convert. I had to hack into the phone to get all their M4As off of it, convert those to MP3s, and then change their ID3 book information to have the right album and artist and year and everything. Took me like 3 weeks. Put it on.
Oh my God. I haven't even gone into the MP3 files themselves to like get everything freshened up and correct. That does sound like it would be like a month-long project. I would liken that to the difference between buying a bunch of like Warhammer 40K miniatures and taking the time to actually paint them.
Right.
So I don't know.
Aren't you on a MacBook Pro right now?
I am.
And we also built that computer together. How would you compare the experience on your MacBook Pro versus that PC we built?
Having them together is very convenient.
Look at how smug he is.
What'd you say, Jamie?
I said, look at how smug you are. You should have seen your little smile when you said, how's your PC stack up against that iPad Pro?
Oh, right. Well, I don't play games on the iPad Pro, on the MacBook anymore. I did for a while, but as anybody that's tried to use a gaming laptop knows, you run into some pretty quick limitations in terms of heat and speed. I'll make another confession. I bought an Alienware back in the day, the hugely overpriced gaming PCs. They're terrible. I was in the military. I had just gotten back from deployment, so I had like more money than sense. And I wanted to play computer games, so I was like, I'll just buy one of these Alienwares. And it was like having a jet engine running because they had to run the fan so hard. Anyway, to answer your question, Rob, the PCs, any heavy lifting I need to do, any gaming, anything, I'm using my PC. This MacBook Pro is basically just kind of a secondary monitor, but as a Zoom meeting, it's convenient for that. It's got the built-in camera and microphone, so it's getting the job done for me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty deep into the Appleverse. I have an Apple TV. I have an iPhone. I have a Apple laptop, and I'm happy. I used to own before that PCs and Androids, and I love them. I like it all, to be honest. But for my needs right now, I think Apple fits the bill. I'm not playing computer games. I'm with Hank. If that was my interest, I think the new laptops and iMacs that are coming out now can easily handle probably 95 or higher % of the games that are available. Mm-hmm. But you're going to spend 3 times as much. But on to Hank's point, those laptops, those phones tend to last. Like with every new software update, I had a better phone than the one that I bought. And that was not always the case with my Android updates.
This MacBook Pro I'm using is 7 years old, 8 years old. So, I mean, with all the original like camera and everything, that's still, and I've used a ton of it. My WASD keys on this board are basically worn off.
Well, Jamie had a point about the updates and the operating system getting better, more usable, more user-friendly. With Android, I look for a phone that I can root and then install custom ROM because I don't want all that bloat that Verizon or Sprint or whatever puts on there.
Oh my God, they put so much on there. I rooted my phone as an idiot. I rooted my phone back in the day. I didn't know what I was doing, obviously. I just got on some websites as a pretty lay person. I figured it out. I didn't break anything. But I will say that it's a little bit more for experts. You kind of got to know what you're doing to have a rooted phone, which is another reason why moving over to the iPhone felt like I was switching my life back into easy mode. And since I'm not trying to impress anybody, I'm fine beating the game in easy mode here, or at least getting to the end, get the high score.
I think that's what I like about the tech scene now is I mean, you probably have to know a little bit more to satisfy the metric I'm about to lay down, but there's really a phone or a computer for everyone, depending on how they use it. So, we're just talking about gaming. There's no Mac product that I would get over a PC product to game. There just isn't. But
yeah.
But if I want a good, stable, well-built computer that, yes, I'm going to pay, for example, $1,300 for the new iMac Air, or iPad, I'm sorry, Apple Air, MacBook Air, there it is. But that $1,300 may well last me for, 6 years. And that's, from my experience, that's like ancient. I had to replace my PC. And granted, I wasn't putting them together like, Robert does, but I had to buy a new one far more often than that.
Speaking of what you said about spending $1,300 on a Mac Air and it lasts you 6 years, I spend about that much on building a PC, but it requires a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it, like you said, it lasts me 6 years. But the thing is, the machine that I built that's $1,300, the equivalent hardware in a Mac is like $3,000.
Right. Totally. But you brought up the thing that makes that is a product advantage for Apple, which is ease of use. Like literally, I can divorce all intelligence from using an Apple product.
Yes. Apple knows its audience. These are people. There are people that either don't know how to use computers otherwise, or previously weren't using a computer at all. It's the computer you buy your grandma. It's the computer you help your mom get work set up on, and they treat their customers that way in the sense that you can't go wrong. Whereas Microsoft is more like, at best, benevolent neglect.
I'll have to agree with that. But the price disparity is just too big. I get it that people who don't want to drill down and customize everything get a Mac or an Apple product, but the price difference is just insane.
It is. But you're also buying like
your
think the components that they use in an Apple product, depending on your taste, you're buying something for that $1,200 that you're not getting in a PC. Like, the all aluminum body and some of the components in the computer, they say, I'm not qualified to say they're right, but I mean, that's something. But the other part that attracted me to Apple, and if I decided Apple sucked and I go somewhere else, I would be looking for this in an Android product. I'd probably get the Pixel, or back in the day, the Microsoft phone that's now dead. But like, when an update is available, it's available for every Apple product, period. There's no waiting. Whereas with an Android, for a non-Pixel Android, you could be, even their flagship phones, the phones that really bring people to the Android platform.
You have to wait for
Samsung.
the carrier. You have to wait for the carrier version of the update.
Right. And you could be waiting. And from then, there's another schedule. So there's one for Sprint, and then there's another schedule for the actual brand of phone you have, or at least that's the way it was when I had an Android last. And you could be waiting for like 6 or 8 months, or never.
But if geeky stuff and tweaking and modifying things is your hobby, then you can spend maybe a weekend to fix something on a PC, whereas you would just have to spend twice as much for half the hardware with Apple. But speaking of hobbies, let's move on to how the quarantine has impacted our hobbies.
I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the parable or the morality play where you catch your kid smoking a cigarette and then you make him smoke a whole pack.
You like video games? Here's some video games.
You like laying on your dead ass and and like watching a screen 23 hours a day, or no, well, I sleep more than that. But like, good God, talk about screen time. I'm putting up big numbers these days, fellas. I'm talking 14, 15, 16 hours probably. It's sad. I need to take more walks and shit, but what can I say? I'm tearing through my back catalog. I am reading books and stuff. I'm one of those guys where this quarantine, like my hobbies were pretty lazy to start with. Yep. So it just allowed me to focus even more time on them, which you'd think, it was a paradise for like the first 3 or 4 months. But now I am feeling like I'm stuck in a Chinese finger trap or something.
No, I feel the exact opposite. I feel like I've been released from a finger trap because I had to go outside before. Not anymore. You know, I'm not happy with the way I got this, but this is basically how I've always wanted to live. What kind of air is better? Fresh air? Conditioned air? Yep.
We do love conditioned air. I will say that.
My food has gotten better because I'm not, my wife is immunocompromised. So we don't go out to eat anymore. I don't do fast food. So I'm making everything. What was that?
What are you cooking?
So last night we had Indian food. So more like chicken tikka masala, but with, probably we've mastered the spice profile.
Masala? You guys are making your own homemade butter chicken over there?
God, not yet, but that's a great idea.
Oh my God. AAB, best Indian in town, and they deliver DoorDash. So not the plug DoorDash. And I'm sorry we got off the agenda. Although cooking and food and eating, I guess, kind of is a hobby. I'm doing a lot more. Yeah, well, I'm making a sport of it.
I'll get us back on topic there. I'm with Jamie. Like, I'm an introvert.
Yep.
And I'm in IT, and I could fix thousands of computers without having to interact with anybody, and be happy. That's my life. And now that I'm at home, I can keep doing my job. I don't have any commute except for to roll this chair into another room.
Yep.
That's my commute.
Isn't it beautiful? I never want to go back. I never want to go back.
Never.
Oh. I do miss some of the people, and I do miss, one thing I do miss is like, Hank and Robert, you guys stopping by my cubicle for a quick chat.
Yeah.
This is cool, but that's cooler. I will freely admit that. But, every paradise has a bit of a trade-off. There's no such thing as perfect.
Right.
What I'm hoping is that they keep they keep it going. We're off topic. I'm sorry. We got to be driving nuts. Anyway, I'll save my piece.
Well, I predict, and this is the next subject, predictions for 2021, even when the quarantine ends, a lot of organizations are going to be keeping a lot of their staff on telework. Because what's the point of having you come in if your performance is good,
Right.
And everyone is happier, and they don't have to pay more for it. So that's, I think, like, you're getting all that bang for the buck. So people like teleworking, generally speaking. From surveys I've done of my workplace, I won't disclose. Well, I don't know. Anyway, we're talking 80%. We're talking 80% in an agency of like 700, 800 people. Right. So, those are overwhelming numbers. I just don't see it changing. The real question is whether we'll ever actually downsize our, are we going to close down office space? Like, we don't need to have these huge cavernous empty buildings.
Right.
Right. I think we're going to get back into movies being released when they figure out how to film with the quarantine restrictions.
Oh, well, you saw Mulan is coming out for $30 on Disney++.
Plus. Yes,
you have to.
My prediction, it may not be in 2021, but it'll begin in 2021, is that movie theaters are as dead as disco. Drive-ins might make a comeback, but movie theaters, nah, why bother?
I agree. I predict that movie theaters will survive, but they're going to be specialty movie theaters on a national chain level. I'm talking like Alamo Roadhouse style, where you pay a little extra and they're really strict about being quiet and you can get food and beer. The really high-end premium movie-going experience will still be there because there's a market for it. But it'll be like one or maybe two national chains will run it. Small operations are definitely dead. Even chains like AMC may irrevocably change to either become a smaller group of really high-end places to compete with Alamo Drafthouse, or they're going to they've got to do something. I think there's too many of them, probably.
Isn't the Alamo Drafthouse itself closed now? Like this is a pre-pandemic thing. They shut down like a year or two ago. Yeah,
oh, you mean? I think I didn't think they shut down because they ran out of money. Did that happen?
I think so. I could be totally wrong, but I have a specific memory.
There was another theater on the west side on Cemetery Road. I can't remember the name right now. And they served food in the theater, and they went out of business. And a couple years after they came out, the AMC at Easton started serving food, and they stopped like in 2019 serving food.
Really?
Yeah.
I just don't see many movies. Obviously, I don't see many movies. The only movies I've seen recently, the last two, were The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. And those might be the last two films I see for a while in the theater. Oh, my God. What a waste of money.
I will miss theaters because I would go take my son to a theater or I'd go on dates or whatever. That was one of my go-to things. You want to go see a movie, you know? And then there's dollar theaters and stuff.
I agree.
Theaters are something I could see surviving.
Movie theater?
Especially if you have to pay $30 or more to see top-run films in your home.
I think what you'll initially see is just a wave of bankruptcies and closures because coronavirus or they just run out of money. They have to shutter it down. And then once things open up, that's where you'll start to see some little flowers bloom here or there. It'll be a big deal when a new movie theater opens in your town showing movies, if that even happens. But
I think what you're talking about it's not like that's a crazy prediction, but I think it's all going to be rooted in how long this goes, and two, how many movies have been released the way Milan is getting released.
That's true. I want Greenland to release that way. Man, I'm excited for that one. Ugh.
Which one?
Greenland, basically asteroids coming for Earth. Got it. Jared Butler and the lady from the Firefly series, the one that played the courtesan or whatever. The Brazilian one, or half whatever. She's his wife in it. I hope she survives for a while. I will. Prayers up. But anyway, it looks. Watch the trailer if you haven't. It's amazing.
Wow, I'm in.
Yeah. What reminded me of that was just that Beirut explosion with the shockwave.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, there it is.
Yeah.
But I think if movies coming to your home becomes something that just happens a lot between now and the time it's possible for what you're talking about can come to pass, I don't see how people wouldn't be happier with being able to pause the movie to go take a leak, to go get a snack.
No, I
take the dog out.
We'll have to see how well Mulan does. And I don't think it's going to do very well. That's the problem. I don't think it's a good test case because it's fake. The previous version was very well liked and a musical. This one's not a musical. And I mean, it might be okay, but I mean, we've all seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. We've all seen Hero, House of Flying Daggers, what have you. There's all these top-notch martial arts style films that this is going to try and ape the style of. I just don't think it's going to be a hit because I don't think that's what little kids are going to want to see.
Not only that, it's a remake. It's like Hollywood's been stuck in this cycle like the past 5 or 7 years where they don't want to hire writers. So there's get a screenplay writer to rewrite something that's already been written.
Well, and the audience for Mulan is going to be mothers and their daughters. I mean, I'm not saying that fathers and sons or anybody can't go see it, but there's a strong,
right.
You know, the main character is a daughter, and that's a huge part of her identity. And it's not a fun movie for little girls. It's going to be like scary, right? It's going to be scary and army-ish and bloody-ish. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's Disney, so what are they?
Another reason that it's going to be mothers and daughters is because girls grew up on the cartoon film, and they're going to want to see the remake with their daughters.
Right.
We'll see. I think it's possible both of you are correct. I think the other thing, though, like I'm only going to take me into account here because obviously if I had any ability to predict audience size on anything, I wouldn't be working where I work. But I'm more excited to see this movie than I was any other remake because all of those were shot for shot remakes of the source material. This seems to not be. So there's another take on this that's going to have stuff in it maybe that wasn't in the original. So then it's worth my time.
Yeah, like Beauty and the Beast, right? Beauty and the Beast, that was that way.
Total shot for shot. So was The Jungle Book. So was Pete's Dragon wasn't. Pete's Dragon was not a shot for shot retelling of that story. I didn't like it, but it was worth the experiment because they made that part of, well, at least I saw in the commercials that it looked significantly different than the one they did in the 70s.
I don't know how you can touch Pete's Dragon from the 70s. That was just, it's too wholesome for modern audiences. It's like bringing it back is like Jurassic Park. It's an art form for a different time, and it can't survive in today's environment. You try to bring it back, it's like Frankenstein or something. It's like
or a virgin.
Okay, but on that note, how many times have they retold the Frankenstein story since 1920 when the original was released? I mean, or 1940.
That's a timeless art right there. The timeless story of man and creation and all this. I know this isn't a Frankenstein episode. You save that for Halloween, but there's a lot going on in that story.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like, if you're going to do another Pete's Dragon, you're right. They can't capture that 70s magic, but it's possible that you could tweak it enough to where it's still sort of staying on that same narrative arc, just modernize.
I want to see Quentin Tarantino's Pete's Dragon.
Right.
A dragon would be tearing people up.
That dragon would be offending people of color all over the place. He'd have the standing to do it because he's green.
You'd be seeing a lot of feet.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of hopes for Pete's Dragon, and my expectations were satisfied. But I do actually have hope for Mulan. It's a kick butt story, or it can be, in a live action setting. And for all the all the comparisons to the movies that you brought up are the reason why. Like those movies, granted they have a niche audience, but with Disney's production, the amount of money they have to throw at this thing, it could be worth seeing. I'm interested, but I'm not trying to say that because I'm interested that there goes the movie-going nation. I'm just saying, like, if they're not doing a shot-for-shot remake of the cartoon, I think that's better. Although, again, to the point of me not knowing what I'm talking about, all of those shot-for-shot live-action remakes did really well in the box office. So
that's depressing, but it's true.
Any predictions about television? Because we've done movie theaters. Everybody's streaming these days. What do you see being successful next year?
I don't know that there's a great answer to that. I'll tell you, my instincts are that television is going to supersede movies as being the number one big ticket medium. I think movies may also well be on their way out, at least as we know them today.
Movies on their way out. I don't know. They make a lot of money. I think we'll still see big movies. You think they're just going to turn off the MCU money cow? They can't. Look at you. You're sitting there in front of a Captain America poster, a background. They can't stop that train. It has to keep rolling.
But to that point, that's why I say not as we know them, because they're throwing movie money at the television series that they're coming out with. And they're throwing big time money at Star Wars projects like The Mandalorian. So what's more is it more profitable to throw a movie together and put it in a movie theater process that's dying? Or are there still going to be movies, but they're different from what we understand them to be now? Are they just going to be multi-part editions of a television show, or are we going to bring back the miniseries, and that's what movies are to us from now on?
I guess we'll really have to see how how their take is in terms of how what are their financial incentives. If people aren't paying for movie tickets anymore, will they pay for a $30 rental of a movie?
I think if movie theaters go away, they'll probably have their cash cows all on miniseries, like Jamie pointed out, but then in the occasional blockbuster AAA title movie that'll be $30 to stream,
For now. But the more prolific that becomes, the cheaper those movies are likely to be.
Yep.
If they're still in that form. And the other thing to note is, fine, maybe they survive, but the delivery systems might well change. Like, what's the future of Blu-ray at that point when everything can be streamed?
Yep, game consoles stream.
Yep.
I, for one, am glad that I got off of the DVD purchasing bandwagon a long time ago. I still have like 3 or 4 of those big zip-up folders full of CDs and DVDs. But at a certain point, I realized that it's going to be as useless as a giant stack of VHS tapes or something like that. I mean, unless you're keeping them specifically because you're in love with the format and stuff like that. And I'm not casting dispersions on people that might have a big, huge analog technology collection. But it's for collectors only. It's not for people that want to be able to watch stuff. Streaming is the future.
Yeah, I just unhooked my VCR DVD combo that I bought probably a couple decades ago. It played DivX, so that meant if somebody had home videos or footage or whatever, I could throw them all on one disc and play it on that. And it's been bugging out whenever I go to use it. So I ripped it out to put in a laptop as a security cam. That was just earlier today.
Well, like laptops now and computers now, like there's not a single Apple product made today, even at the lowest end of the range, that comes with a DVD or Blu-ray player.
Right.
They just don't have them anymore. And I'd honestly say, you know, like game consoles too, like Apple Arcade, to me is a shot across the bow that game consoles are coming close to the end of their run. Because again, and Stadia and NVIDIA and all those streaming platforms, if you've got a computer that can handle it, or, you know, with all the cloud service, you don't necessarily have to have all the hardware that the console provides down the line as this technology grows.
I didn't understand.
This may well be the end times for console.
I didn't understand when the PS4 first launched, it could not stream. It was added as an update.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. I mean, because that's what made the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3 sell so many units, especially the PlayStation 2. It was like, oh, it's also a DVD player, right?
Right.
And they wiped the floor with all the competition. And then the PlayStation 3 was like, oh, it's also a Blu-ray player. Sweet. I don't have to buy two things.
Right.
So any game console, if it doesn't stream from all the different platforms, well, it's dead in the water.
And it should be, because Xbox never deviated from that. Like when the 4 came out, the Xbox One came out, Xbox One could stream. Xbox One could play your DVDs and Blu-rays.
This is the first I've heard someone say the consoles are on their way out. Because with the specs of the 5th generation that have been shown, aren't they actually passing or really starting to compete with gaming PC rigs?
Yes. What I meant is if they don't stream, people won't use them. They might buy it for a little while and then sell it. But like Sony or Microsoft, they're going to get the majority of their profit from selling the consoles, not the games. So if their console doesn't stream, they're not going to have revenue over and over every year because people are just going to be buying used consoles, you know, because there's going to be a high market of used consoles. Now, you're right, because both the Xbox and the PS5 are going to have better hardware in them than any current PC has, thanks to AMD, because they've been innovating for the past few years. And so they figured out the RTX thing, which only NVIDIA has. That's going to be in those consoles native. And it's going to be a better GPU, a better graphics experience that you can get on any PC. But a lot of people who've been watching the market predict that within 6 to 12 months, that same hardware will be available as an upgrade you can purchase for a PC. But we have to wait and see.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
no, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say they're leaving a lot of money on the table and it doesn't seem like pretty natural for them to have this technology that's just reserved for game consoles. I think that's a good prediction. 6 months to a year. I just have to. I just don't understand. Are they taking a loss? Are they? You said that they make their money on console sales. Aren't they taking a loss on the consoles to get you into the system, and then they sell you the games?
That was my understanding.
At first, for the first year and a half, because I'm a console geek, even though I don't play games much lately because of working on YouTube. But the first year or two of every console is sold at a loss, even though it's illegal in a lot of situations. So the manufacturer has to like make it in Mexico and then import it. But then the R&D keeps going. So they figure out how to make the parts better and for cheaper. one of the things anybody watching who's considering getting a console in December, don't. I'll say the same thing every time a new console comes out. Never buy version 1 hardware of anything ever, because you're gonna get like the Xbox got the red ring of death. You know, the PlayStation 2 overheated the first version. PlayStation 3, the laser would burn out within 6 months. You know.
So your advice is good on a personal level, but without the early adopters, the second part of your comment will never come to pass.
Well,
like if they don't do well enough in the first generation of sales,
the early adopters are always going to be early adopters. The early adopters are always going to be early adopters. They don't care if it's going to work or not, because they spend money in a different way than you and I do. Just like, oh, that's the new thing. I want that.
Yeah, I think his warning is well heeded for the average consumer. If you're not a product reviewer, and those guys get it for free, yeah.
I completely agree. I just wanted to sound contrarian because we've all kind of agreed too much so far.
It was a good point. It was a good point to have there in the show.
You know the products you can trust at launch? Apple.
Not always.
True.
Not always, because you got when the emoji keypad came out, version 1 of that didn't work. And then when the butterfly keys came out, they would get crumbs in there and break them. Not like if you're like, I wouldn't recommend anybody to actually do this, but like on a standard Windows laptop, if you get crumbs underneath, there's a way to pop the keycaps off and carefully expand the butterfly mechanism, and then get tweezers and get the crumbs out and get some canned air, and then pop your keycap back on. But if you're not careful, you can break the butterfly. The videos that I watched illustrated that you couldn't do that. And it was like 3 years until Apple fixed that crap. So wait till there's, at least till there's enough reviews on a product before you buy it.
Fair point.
And then there's, they're bad ideas that work that don't come up a lot. I mean, I largely agree with you, but like the scroll touch bar that they've added, it looks like that's not going to survive. And it worked perfectly well it did not work. It did. It's just, it wasn't a replacement for the touch screen.
It was good at not working.
Yeah, I knew somebody who had it. It worked. Again, the makers of apps had to develop their apps around the touch bar for it to work, just like any software, or any hardware enhancement. But it worked for the apps that accepted it, but they didn't all accept it. And for me, it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't a more comfortable experience than having, that top row of keys, the F keys. And that's just because, we all grew up with that. Not having them, if you're going to replace something and have to relearn something, it should actually be better, and just wasn't. So
here's an
they have those stinkers sometimes.
Interesting thing we could wrap up the show with. Intel is not in good graces with Apple because Intel hasn't been developing. They've lost touch with the fabrication company that makes their CPUs, so they can't go down to the next process node and keep up with the performance of the products coming out from AMD. So Apple is actually looking to acquire some CPUs from another company called ARM, and then to put the Apple branding on it. And like a CEO or something at ARM got in trouble with the board, and they wanted to fire him. And so he hired his own security force to protect him in the office so that he can remain there. Because it's like in China, you got this like little badge that represents the company, and he has that. And they're like, oh, well, he has the company. We can't fire him because we can't get to him. Either of you ever heard of this news about Apple and Intel and all that?
I heard they made their own chip.
I have not.
I mean, their own chip
for their phones. The ARM CPUs, if I'm not mistaken.
Is there time for Donald?
Sorry, you broke up there. What was that?
Oh, I was saying, the last I heard on this kind of front was just when Trump was shutting down, or Tencent or some other Chinese company, and trying to get a bite of the TikTok. Yeah, and
Right.
he wanted to get a bite of the apple himself. He's like, the American people need a taste.
This is the thing. Not even to get political, but there needs to be some kind of check on that, because TikTok is owned. So the relationship between tech companies and our government is right. I mean, can be contentious. You're allowed to dissent. The relationship between tech companies in China and their government, there is no dissension. Like, if they want everybody's personal data, they can walk in and get it. So I'm not saying all of the anti-China rhetoric is good or bad or indifferent, but that is a big deal.
Well, with U.S. companies, they can gather all your data and have a privacy policy that they don't actually stick 100% to. And I have a video. Yeah. I have a video on my channel where I went over a lawsuit that I got emailed about, and it's legit. Where Google Plus was so buggy that hackers could easily get your profile information, even though you set it to private.
Right.
And they sued Google for $7.5 million, and they're breaking that up into $12 per person. And I said,
I got the same thing.
So let's say you make $800 every 2 weeks flipping burgers, right? And you work that job for 6 years. And they say, we don't like the way you did your job for those 6 years. You owe us $8. Because Google makes $11 billion a year. They make $7.4 million an hour. What's $7.4 million to them? It's like coming to somebody that works in a burger joint and said, you hurt these people, you owe us $8. So when we say, like, the Chinese government is allowed to spy on whatever they want, okay, so is the U.S. government, but at least that's sanctioned, right? But a corporation, a privately owned corporation, can spy on you, and it's illegal, and they get sued for pennies on the dollar.
My solution to all of this is kind of like the evolutionary history of the skunk. Just make myself so, my personal information so disgusting and unreadable that no one cares, so boring, nobody cares. So China, if you're listening, good luck with that. I have nothing but pity on the poor NSA agents tasked with reviewing my internet history.
I'm going to give them PTSD.
You make me so patriotic, Hank. No, you're absolutely right that the ease of access to our information from our government is not where it should be. But like Apple successfully defended against the U.S. government, getting back to Apple, to keep their user data private from U.S. government hands. And that's something that you just can't do in China. I'm not trying to say, American exceptionalism, rah, rah, rah. I'm just saying there is a difference, and it's a big one. Not to say that it's as big a difference as I would personally like, but different it is. And that's something to watch out for. And Robert, that doesn't take away from your example at all. And I did file for my $12, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have a follow-up video for anybody who saw that, because there's more information I got to talk about based off of some comments I got on my video and some own research I did that I led from their comments, and I did some research about whether or not it was safe to do it, what are the pros and cons of filing for it.
Pot stirrer.
What?
Pot stirrer.
Oh, yeah.
Rabble rouser.
Rabble rouser. Rabble, 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 rabble.
Rebel.
Well, gentlemen.
Yep. It should be about it for this video. Thanks for showing up for the meeting today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, a good time.
All right. Thanks.
Stay safe, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.